Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Parent-Teacher Organization Conference Virtual Board of Education Candidate Forum. We are so excited that you've joined us tonight. Welcome to our wonderful moderators, to our 7 candidates running for the board, and to all of you that are watching. My name is Andrea Spar, and I have a 17-year-old who is a senior at Millburn High School. My husband and I have lived in Millburn for 23 years. During that time, I've been an active volunteer, holding numerous positions for the PTOs, and also I'm now the co-president of the PTOC. At this time, I would like to introduce my PTO co-president, Abby Ogunsanya. She will be co-hosting this event along with our moderators, Emily Jaffe and Abby Speltz. Also, I'd like to thank our behind-the-scenes support guru, Katie Dussault and John Westfall Kwong, who helped us with production. Abby, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. My name is Abby Ogunsanya. My husband and I have lived in Melbourne for nearly 10 years. I have 3 children, a freshman in high school and 2 in the elementary level. I have been involved over the years in various capacities with the PTO, including serving as PTO president at Wyoming. I would now like to introduce our moderators, Emily Jaffe and Abby Speltz. Emily Jaffe and her husband have lived in Melbourne for 14 years. During that time, she was elected to serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms on the Millburn Board of Education and served as president, vice president, and chair of the finance committee. Her 2 daughters are a senior and sophomore in high school, and her son is in 6th grade. All of whom currently attend Morristown Bird School. Abby Speltz and her husband moved to Millburn 10 years ago with their 2 daughters. One a recent Millburn High School graduate, currently attending American University, and the other an 8th grader at the Millburn Middle School. Abby has served in various roles, including PTO president for South Mountain, Washington School, and Millburn Middle School, PTOC executive committee member, and co-president of the Millburn Education Foundation. Thank you both for being here tonight. We are going to head back to Andrea for a quick note, and then back to Abby and Emily.
A few housekeeping items. For tonight's forum, the PTOC received over 70 questions. We will not be able to cover all of them, but we will try to cover as many topics as possible. Before the forum, we spun a wheel to determine the order for tonight. In addition, even though most of the candidates are running together on a platform, the PTOC has decided to treat each candidate as an individual. At the ballot box, you will cast a vote for each of your preferred candidates. Also, this year, all participants were provided with the specific guidelines regarding conduct during the forum. All of the candidates have signed the document stating they understand these rules. Thank you all so much. Over to you, Abby and Emily.
Thank you, Andrea and Abby, and to Millburn's Parent-Teacher Organization Conference members for your leadership and service to the community.
To all of the Millburn Board of Education candidates, welcome to this evening's forum. On behalf of the community, know that your willingness to serve is greatly appreciated. As you know, Board of Ed positions are nonpartisan and unpaid. This year, voters may vote for up to 3 candidates to fill 3 open positions. Welcome to Andrew Finkelstein, John Merimee, known as Jack, which is what we're going to call him tonight, Puja Trivedi Parikh, Cynthia Longley Richards, Louie Shen, Priya Shivani, who has asked us to refer to her as Shivani tonight so as to avoid any confusion, and Alex Zaltsman. As a reminder to our viewers, per New Jersey state law outlining Code of Ethics and the New Jersey School Boards Association, the key rules for a Board of Education member are policy, planning through the board's approval of the budget and curriculum, and oversight of the superintendent. Board of Ed members also represent the public during collective bargaining during contract negotiations and serve as a communications conduit between the community and the school system. Each candidate will have up to 60 seconds to provide an opening statement. We've asked them to include their unique strengths they are bringing to the table to best represent our community and all students enrolled in Millburn's public schools. The speaking order is as follows: Alex, Andrew, Jack, Louie, Shivani, Puja, Cynthia. We will rotate who will speak first after each question, so everyone will have the opportunity to answer first. And the behind the scenes tech team will be using a timer app to keep everything on track. The app will signal when there are 10 seconds remaining, and then it will sound when the time is up. If a candidate does not seem to be wrapping up and continues to speak past their allotted time, the tech team will have the ability to turn off your mic, but we would like to avoid having to do that. With that out of the way, Alex, please provide us with your 60-second opening statement.
Thank you, Emily. My name is Alex Zaltsman. This is my 6th year on the Board of Ed, and I'm proud to have served district since being elected in 2017. Throughout my time on the board, I have achieved a lot, and I'm looking forward to continuing to contribute if I am elected. I was selected by my peers to lead the board as president for 3 years, 2 at the height of COVID. I spearheaded and strongly advocated for an independent third-party assessment of our AP program and our upcoming report on performance and visual arts. I was the chair of the ad hoc committee on transportation, which was at the time a critical problem that needed to be addressed. Within 9 months, me and my fellow committee members worked with the district to completely overhaul the transportation department into a highly reliable service that our parents deserve and experience today. Other notable accomplishments include participating in 3 labor union negotiations, the formation of a township liaison committee, and the reform of the board staff committee. I restructured the student liaison committee to ensure board members could have productive insights into student life. I want to thank the PTOC for continuing the tradition on hosting as a partial and important forum. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Finkelstein. I've lived in Millburn for the past 14 years. I have three children in the Millburn Public Schools, a 5th grader, a 9th grader, and an 11th grader. My professional experience background is in finance, where I've been a bond analyst at a few different firms over the years. I bring, I think, skills to the table in data analysis, asking questions, problem solving, team leadership. I think, for the board, I got involved about 1.5 years ago, attending as many board meetings as I could, trying to dig in and understand the issues in more depth. After having lived through, multiple different phases of my kids' life in the schools, I think there's much more to do. We've been pushing for change, part of that group, but I think being on the Board of Ed is where I can add more value and continue to make the schools a better place.
Thank you, Andrew. Jack?
Hi, I'm Jack Merimee. I'm a member of our Board of Education. I was appointed to fill a vacancy early this year, and I'm currently in my 9th month of service to the district. My wife, Kristen, and I have lived in Millburn for a little over 14 years. We have 3 children who attend district schools. They're at the middle school, Washington, and Glenwood School. I'm the sole attorney on our Board of Education, and to my knowledge, I'm the only candidate who is a lawyer. After a long career as a corporate lawyer, I decided to change my career and focus on a profession about which I'm very passionate. I decided to become a public elementary school teacher. I'm completing a master's program, and soon I'll be a certified teacher. I'm currently a 4th grade student teacher in Newark, which is exactly where I want to teach. I'm dedicated to public education, and I'm dedicated to Millburn. Everything about me, including my resume and my professional qualifications, are available online, and I'd like to thank the PTOC for hosting us tonight.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Thank you so much. First, I want to thank the PTOC for hosting this forum. A lot of people have talked to me about how come I'm not saying too much in the public forum, but it's hard for the incumbents because we're under a strict code of ethics. So for example, I'm the president of the board. My name is Louie Shen. I have 2 kids. They're in the 6th and 7th grade. But as the president of the board tonight, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. Everything I speak tonight is only my personal opinion. I just want to make that clear. And in the normal chat groups, when I say that, people still get confused because they may twist my words around saying, the board is committed to certain positions. We try to avoid that confusion. That's why we don't say too much. At the same time, we commit a lot of time to the public work. So for example, on Monday, we just had a meeting for 4 hours, and it's a little bit hard to talk more about board work beyond that. So tonight, I'm looking forward to an opportunity to have productive exchange of ideas. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Louie. Shivani?
Hi, thank you to the PTOC, to the hosts, and to the parents for tuning in today. I am Priya Shivani. I have 2 students in the school system, ages 11 and 15. I have first-hand experience kindergarten through high school in the system. Professionally, I have 20 plus years of experience in institutional fintech and consulting. I have worked as a program and product leader in startups and large firms. I have experience managing stakeholder interests, collaborating with disparate groups, and leading impactful programs with strict deadlines. I believe in accountability and delivering results. And that's the skill we need on the board, delivering results. I'm actively involved in the community. I have been a travel soccer team manager, assistant scoutmaster for Shortles Troop 19. I've been a PTO volunteer and a class parent. As many parents know, there is a need for community representation, transparency, and culture change in our school district. Through my professional, parenting, and volunteering experience, I have the right understanding of the issues and ideas that we need. I will quote John D. Rockefeller and urge you, don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Puja?
Hi, everybody. Thank you to the PTOC for hosting this candidate forum. My name is Puja Trivedi Parikh, or as you may see me on the ballot as Puja T. Parikh. I'm a resident of Short Hills, and I have a 6-year-old who attends first grade at Hartshorn Elementary. Prior to moving here to Short Hills, we moved in 2020 from the city, and we were looking to find a place to call home, and I couldn't have thought of a better place to move. We absolutely love it here, and that is why I'm here. I deeply believe that our community is special and has a lot to offer. So while the school districts were a big draw, the community is also something that we were very impressed with, and I felt very strongly about being here. So that is what has sort of motivated me to, step into this election this year for the Board of Ed. Prior to, currently residing here, I'm currently a licensed psychotherapist and a board certified behavior analyst, where I am in private practice. I work with children and families. And previously, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Puja. Cynthia.
Sorry, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the PTOC for hosting this forum, and thank you, Emily and Abby, for moderating tonight. My name is Cynthia Longley Richards, and I am a professional musician, educator, and mental health professional, and a mom to an 8th and a 4th grader at Millburn Middle and South Mountain Schools, respectively. I've been teaching in public and private schools for the past 25 plus years. I was previously a music teacher in Millburn for 4 years, and am currently a strings teacher in Clifton in the grades 4 and 5 for 4 of their 14 elementary schools. I also have a private studio on Millburn Avenue, and I have advised and graduated cellists, including those who have gone on to become professional musicians. On our Board of Education, we have professionals and parents who work in business, law, finance, but I'm the only voice that knows the perspective of both parent and certified educator. I'm also a board certified music therapist and have experience in working with students and adults in mental health issues. As a parent of a student with an IEP, I know the laws and the language of education and special education. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And thank all of you for your opening statements, and for everyone who submitted a question and who is paying attention to this tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, let's begin. For this first question, you will have 45 seconds to answer. And just a reminder, there is no rebuttal round for this question. Starting with Andrew. In your own words, please share what you feel the role of a Board of Education member is and why you feel you are uniquely qualified for the role. What qualities will enable you to effectively work with other Board of Education members, the superintendent, and other district professionals? Also, name one Board of Education committee that you think your background would add value.
Okay. I think there's a lot in that question. Let's see. I think what I bring to the role, again, something from my background, the analysis, the deep dive, the tough questions, that's my day in and day out job, is to really dig in. It's finance focused, but I brought that to, my experience watching my kids go through the schools. And I think that's what I'm really looking to bring to the Board of Ed in terms of my skill set. I think that really is an important responsibility for the board, is to ask those tough questions. And we want accountability, and we want answers, and we want to move forward, and we want change, and we want modernization. And I think You have to experience and live it to understand what you're supposed to ask and do the work and do the research. And that's, what I think I can bring to the board.
Thank you. Jack.
It's so short.
Thanks. It's short. Yeah. So the role of a board member is to see that the school district is well run. It's the role of the superintendent to administer and run the schools. I understand organizational governance, pardon me. I spent about 18 years of my career deeply embedded in corporate and nonprofit organizational governance. I know how to oversee people. I know how to hold them accountable. I also know how to appropriately support and challenge them. There is a balance there. You can't only challenge them, you also need to support them. And you need to pick your battles and celebrate successes along the way. I think I bring a lot to all of our committees. I think I've been great on our program committee, and I think I would also be a good choice for our governance committee in the future.
Louie.
Yes, I mean, apparently over the 6 years, I've worked in every facet of the board. And I take pride in taking a teamwork approach. And I think that's where my strength is. Over the years, I think we have a proud tradition of having different opinions and have a courteous exchange and open exchange of ideas, and we work together. So for example, we had Caroline Alpdike, Corey Haas, and Emily yourself, and Jonathan Green, a whole host of other board members. Sometimes we had different opinions, but we always get things done. So over the years, for example, we're putting block schedulings, start time change, all the different kind of reforms survive COVID. I think 90% of our job is to act like an internal auditor of the district and making sure the district is well run. We review every decision from finance to personnel. So that's where I think I can contribute in pretty much everything there. Thank you.
Shivani.
So I think the role of the board, as you described, Emily, at the beginning of the call, is to write policies, provide governance and oversight, and hold the superintendent accountable. In my professional experience, I have experience in leadership and collaboration, working with teams, aligning teams around common goals. And I think we can all agree that the common goal right now is to change for the better. And that is something that I think I can work collaboratively with other people on the board. That's a unique skill that I bring. Also, my focus on delivering results is something that I've always done, and that has helped me in my career. And that is something that I bring to the personal value. And then, as Andrew said, I have a high schooler. I have actually lived through these issues. I understand firsthand the toll that the current culture takes on our students. And I have ideas to bring those, to resolve some of those issues. And so that's the unique perspective.
Thank you, Puja.
So, I think I have a very unique, multifaceted experience professionally, academically, as a licensed psychotherapist and behavior analyst. I definitely work with families and children. So mental health and wellness, child development is certainly a strong point. But I've also previously worked as a certified school social worker within a large public school district in Connecticut. So I understand the various roles and nuances that go on in operating a school while having worked with administrators and a board of education. In fact, I was in Connecticut, when Sandy Hook occurred. So we kind of had to implement a policy. I was part of the behavioral threat assessment team, which we put into effect. I have also a child in the school, and I understand the full sort of history and the way the educational system works and the role of governance, which is important for a board of education, and via policy and oversight. I believe I can bring that.
Thank you. Cynthia.
All right. Well, I am an educator and mental health professional, and I bring all of that experience with me, including working in our schools, seeing what Millburn does really great, and what really could use some improvement. I think my experience in curriculum and writing would make me a great candidate for the program committee. I also would love to be a part of the student liaison committee because I know so many of the students personally. I always say I love walking around town and having students say, Mrs. Longley, when they see me. So I really feel like I could really be a really great bridge between the community, the board, and the administration to work collaboratively to make win-win solutions where everybody gets what they need, which is, I think, what we really need to be focusing on as we're changing going forward.
Alex.
Sure. I learned very early on that in order to solve a colossal problem, and just really quick, it had to do with getting kids home from school and having the buses arrive on time, requires a few key things that I carry on through my board leadership roles and being a part of the board. One is to build trust, two is to build relationships, and three is to understand the framework. Once those three are aligned, I can make change, and I have done it. I think it's very important to work within the system that's in place to make the change. And again, a lot of this is based on building trust, making sure that the end result is the end result for all the students, all 5,000 students. And that's what a board member has to live with.
Thank you all for your answers. The next question is going to be a bit of a lightning round. You'll have 30 seconds and there won't be a rebuttal. We will start with Jack. And the question is, name two things the district is doing well and two issues that need to be addressed. Jack?
Okay, thanks. Look, I think we're providing top quality education to our students. No question about that. And yeah, like, I think we also provide an outstanding program and set of curricula for our students. They have so many options from which to choose, particularly in our high school. What can we do better? I do think we can spend more time and do a lot of things to improve student wellness, particularly mental and emotional kind of well-being in the school. I didn't get to my second one.
Louie, thank you.
Yes, so I think our district is a high-performing district. I think out of the two rankings I've read, US News rank us number 6 in the state, and NIST rank us number 3 in the state for comparable schools. So I think that record speaks for itself. At the same time, I think we've always had a team working environment in this whole district. Every level works closely together. I think those are the strengths of the district, and I'm aiming to protect it. At the same time, there are always improvements to be made. For example, in the AP section, whether we can allow a little bit more access, and there are certainly other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Louie. Shivani.
So as others have mentioned before me, I mean, I think the school provides great education. I mean, my daughter is such an amazing critical thinker, and I don't think she would have got that anywhere else. And, you know, other things that we do well, the extracurricular programs, I mean, we have superlative talent. If you look at music or theater or arts or robotics, we have superlative talent everywhere, and the school does a great job of encouraging that. I think what we can improve on, of course, one thing I've been saying is that the grading culture, the culture of positive reinforcement is something that we desperately need. And you know, the other thing that I think we can improve is transparency.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you. Shivani, Puja?
So, you know, I think we have a wonderful school district and we have some really good educators, and the community and parents also make up a portion of that district. And that is why I think we are such a great district as well. A couple of issues that I do see, I believe that we do need to work on equity and access and make our practices and policies less restrictive so that children with different abilities and all abilities can access what they would like and achieve their goals in a meaningful way. And I think we need to make holistic changes there. I was in time.
Yeah, thank you. Cynthia?
All right, what we do well is we really do have academic excellence here. Our students are really top notch. And the other thing I'm going to say is we have amazing teachers. We really do have fabulous teachers in our district. What I think we can work on is helping our students feel more successful and prioritizing their mental health and well-being. And I really think that we do need to modernize some of our pathways and our curricular options for all students to find a pathway to success and a future career. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Alex?
So from my experience, I think the district has been very responsive to me as a parent, and also to many friends whose kids needed assistance, and also that they dedicated parents of the PTOs who are actually contribute so much. Two issues, you know, I think parent communication is something that needs improvement significantly. And also focus and prioritization to ensure that when we're working on things in committees, that those are the priorities. So those are the things that I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yeah, I think two of the things that we do well, echo some of the other speakers, is I do think our kids have, and I've seen in my oldest, really get a great education. They know how to work hard. And they are great critical thinkers, and it's a strong education, and the teachers is the other. We have some fabulous teachers passionate about what they do. But I think the things that we really need to work on, particularly in the high school, it's the culture. It's really about the journey. It's not lifting up our kids and providing them with those opportunities.
Thank you, Andrew. So we recognize that that time was a little short for that number of topics. So we're going to give you each an extra 30 seconds in the same order to elaborate or to finish your answer. So we will start with Jack.
Thank you. Look, I guess I was speaking about the issues that need to be corrected. And I do think at the high school level, this does come down to culture to an extent. I think we do great on this at the elementary level. I think we do pretty darn well at the middle school level. I think in the high school, we can do a better job of making sure that the students feel fulfilled, feel rewarded, and just feel pleased with whatever it is they're doing, whatever progress they're seeking to make in life, and happy with the person that they're becoming.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Really appreciate the extra 30 seconds. I'm not a good speed talker. So the second point I wanted to make is communication with the parent community. I truly feel a lot of times people don't truly understand how the board works with the district and how district arrive at certain decisions. Even though we're under a lot of restrictions about what we can share, I think we can definitely do better there. Because based on my experience, sometimes when I have a private conversation with people, all of a sudden people understand why we made the decision we made. And I'm hopeful in the future we can do better there. Thank you.
Thank you. Shivani?
So one thing I did say, in addition to the grading cultures, I think in all my interactions, I felt that we are very focused on the Millburn brand. And I keep hearing it over and over again, Millburn brand. And I think we really need to change that. And we need to be more student-centric. We need to provide more opportunities for students. We are not a business. We are not a factory. We are educators. So we want to be able to be more student-centric. And the other thing that I said about transparency, I think there could be better sharing of information with the community that's currently not happening.
Thank you, Shivani. Puja?
Just to elaborate further, I do think we need more robust mental health and wellness supports. And additionally, I do think we need to focus on majority of our children, which I believe about 70 to 80% of our children are not really receiving, equitable access to the educational curriculum and opportunities. So I think we need to work on those restrictive measures and make things a little bit more supportive by either providing the interventions that a child might need with their executive functioning challenges, but could do really well if they had a little bit of support in, whatever they choose to do. We should have a school system that, nurtures a love for learning, a sense of belonging.
Thank you, Puja. Cynthia?
Oh, here we go. All right. So I think one of the things that, we do need to work on with the student mental health is really looking at our grading practices, because some of these harsh grading practices that have been going on really do affect our students' mental health. I mean, they work very hard and then they get grades that are not reflective of their work or necessarily their intelligence around a subject. So I really think that we need to work more on rewarding our students for what they are actually doing and being a little bit more realistic and not worrying so much about the brand.
Thank you, Cynthia. Alex?
I'm not going to disagree with the grading and those types of things, especially with AP access. I've been saying, I've been a proponent of moving up AP access for quite some time. But I really want to solve the root cause of some of these issues, and that's communicating with the parents and finding a better path, different path to make sure that the parents are aware of what's going on and they understand what the school district is doing. And that is extremely important.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yeah, I think, again, the focus of things we can improve, it's really about allowing all students to find their way to success in the school. And it happens for kids at different times, at different places. And we need to give them those pathways. And pathways aren't a bunch of boxes and lines on a screen. Pathways are real opportunities to get, to do what you want to do, to study what you want to study, to follow your passions in high school. And that's where we really, really can do some improvement. And it goes along with modernization. We've had some things in place for 30 years that haven't really changed, and it's time to change them.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. From this point forward, candidates will have 45 seconds to answer the question. And once we've heard from everyone, we'll go back through the same order and you'll have 30 seconds to rebut or expand upon your prior response. Okay, so next question. Louie, what does inclusion mean for students in the Millburn schools? As a board member, is there any particular change or curriculum you would support being implemented to foster inclusion?
To me, inclusion means two things. One is, you're physically, whether you're being included. I think that goes to ethnic relationships and cultural relationships. And I think our school is doing quite a good job on that part. Over the years, especially post-COVID, there has been a rise of divisive rhetorics nationwide. I think our district is handling that part with care. That's why we have the One Millburn initiative. We also suffer a slight rise in the rhetorics, but overall, I think we're doing a good job. Second thing is the spiritual part, where I do think academically and people want opportunities to access certain programs. And I think that we just have to be very careful that doesn't have the unintended consequences of doing other things.
Thank you.
Shivani.
Okay, so I think for me, inclusion means obviously, in addition to what Mr. Shen said, the ethnic and cultural representation, but also including differences in learning, right? I mean, we have students across all spectrums of learning, and we need to do a better job. We are focused on the top third, the top students and the bottom students get the support that they need, but everybody else in the middle, I feel, is not represented well. Our culture does not. And these are very bright, smart students who anywhere else would be really brilliant students. So I think we need to be able to better support that, and we need to improve a culture where all their needs are represented, and we need better pathways, from elementary through high school, so that there are no shocks along the journey as we are currently seeing. So yeah, I think having pathways that support that journey would be helpful.
Thank you, Puja.
Yep. So to me, inclusion really happens when we can truly have an equitable system, and equity happens when we can accommodate and give children access. So if somebody might have ADHD or some sort of a learning difference, but may require a little bit of supports in the form of accommodation. Some aren't very expensive or hard to implement, but we do have to invest in helping our teachers learn to use differentiated instruction so that they can kind of individualized plans, allow children to, show or demonstrate things through portfolios. Time tests may not work for everybody. Like the timing on these questions is quite frankly hard for me. So, I think we do have to take into account that is really true education that's inclusive and equitable, has meaningful engagement and outcomes for children. It has profound impacts in that regard.
Thank you. Cynthia.
So when I hear inclusion, I go right to special ed, and I think about students learning in the least restrictive environment and having a fair and appropriate education, some of the laws of special ed. But I also think in our district, it really means that we need to include all types of learners in all types of classes, that we have academic inclusion that is fair for everyone, because students don't all grow at the same rate. Development is not linear. Some students are in the middle school are getting tracked already into courses, and maybe in high school they're going to jump up and be an amazing student, but there hasn't been as much access and availability to movement, especially from some of the lower levels to the APs or the higher levels. So it's going to be about making a fair and equitable inclusive education.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Sure. I look at it really, I have like three buckets. One is cultural, and that has to do with understanding of the cultures and uniquenesses between students, and to ensure that they treat each other with respect. Second is academic, to ensure that we have the right opportunities for the students along their journey, all the way from elementary to high school, and also emotional, to make sure that we are there to support them along the way.
Thank you. Next up is Andrew.
Yeah, I think on the inclusion side for our students, I think one is the diversity, and one of the candidates mentioned the One Millburn, but I think with the rise of anti-Semitism or Asian hate or whatever it is, I think it's important for the school district to be educating our kids at an early stage about tolerance, and understanding differences and being sensitive to others. And I think that's important. And I think the other side of it is the academic side that we've been talking about, particularly in the high school. It's opportunities and inclusion for all students at all levels. Particularly, I do agree there's focus on the top, there's focus on the bottom, in the middle. Other schools are doing it better than we are now. Our kids are just as smart, if not smarter, than all these other schools. So I think we could do more. I think we could do more for everybody, really.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah.
Thanks. So when I think of inclusion in Millburn, I think of, providing access, supports, and accommodations so that students of all backgrounds and all ability levels can succeed together. Not always in the same class, but as a group together. And how can we continue to be more inclusive? I think, as other candidates have said, we can have more differentiated instruction in ways that provide supports to students that they need. We can have more accommodations, including more times for tests. We can have more opportunities for students to enter or re-enter aspects or levels of the programs over time.
Thank you. Louie, you now have 30 seconds to rebut or expand.
Sure. When we talk about concepts like inclusion, I don't want to talk about just a core word because, everybody is for freedom, everybody is for equality, and then nothing really gets done. So when I talk about inclusion, I talk about the One Millburn. When we talk about student mental health, we talk about the start time, the block scheduling, everything else we put in place. And when we talk about equal access, of course, we're trying to lower the barrier grade for some of the pathways, and we're trying to provide alternative options and like entrance tests. And when we talk about inclusion, we talk about not separating the CPA and CPB. And I wonder what other people feel about them.
Thank you. Thank you. Shivani.
So I think one point I didn't make is, there's no place for divisiveness in our community. So that's just table stakes. We're in New Jersey. There should not be any place for anything like that. And the other thing about inclusion, I think, is also including the community, including the needs of the community, and responding to the needs of the parents who are really desperately begging for change, and really respecting them and not referring to them as special interest groups. I think that is something that we really, that means inclusion to me, inclusion of the community in these big decisions for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Puja.
Yeah, just to expand upon, I think, inclusion, yes, we have to look at, but I'm looking at it in the educational context. And I do believe that if we can improve the culture within our educational system right now, I think that will impact and positively impact the cultural issues that we're seeing and all of the things that we're trying to do through One Millburn. And I think that some of that is occurring because of the culture and the competitiveness, the internal competitiveness that is occurring, because there seems to, created this gap with all of the lack of access and restrictive practices we have.
Thank you. Cynthia.
Okay, great. So inclusion really, I think, does mean that there's just more access across the board for all students to take classes in subjects that they love and that they're passionate about. And this has been asked for the community at least since 2016. I mean, maybe even longer with some of the people I've spoken to. Just many more opportunities for our kids in the schools. That's all.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, I view myself. I think it's important to define, what the problems are and focus on specific problems if there are concerns about inclusion or exclusion, and then find a path of actually addressing those problems and see what the solutions have been so far, especially with One Millburn initiative, and some of the AP access improvements that have been made over the years.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Shivani. I think including the parents, and I think acknowledging that there is a problem and not dismissing parents as either special interest or whiny or what have you. A group of parents brought a lot of these issues to the forefront that were never going to be addressed otherwise, whether it was grading, the profile, weighting, the culture, AP access, you name it. Some of these things were, only addressed with, active parent enrollment. And I think it's important to listen to those parents and appreciate where they're coming from and acknowledge the problems.
Thank you. And Jack.
So I'm going to stay on inclusion for our students and inclusion in the Millburn district for all of our students from 12th grade down to kindergarten. It's simple. It's just an environment in which no student feels left out, right? And there's a huge mix of things that goes into making students feel that way. Access, differentiated instruction, supports, the list goes on and on. I think we do pretty well with that. I think we can do better. I think just about any public school district can do better. But we're gonna keep at it.
Thank you all for your responses. The next question, we'll start with Shivani. If you are elected to the board, how will you ensure that the policies you pass are being implemented in the manner in which they were intended? Give an example of a recent change to the district, your view of the efficacy of the implementation, and how you would propose to monitor the progress going forward. Shivani.
So I just want to take a moment to read the question again. So I think the policy implementation, I mean, the very first step, as others have said, is to acknowledge that there are issues. But then we need access to impartial and unbiased data and complete data, right? Any policy that is created without evaluating the data in an impartial manner is not going to be effective. So that's the first thing that we need to do. And you know, I think we live in the age of information. We have powerful tools that we can use to perform this analysis and to perform the monitoring of the policy implementation. And I think in the recent few months, I think one thing that was implemented, which was around the weighting of the grading scale. And I think that was, again, it was a little bit divisive and everyone has different opinions, but I don't think it is going to be effective unless the grading culture of the school changes, right? I mean, if the students are still struggling to achieve good grades, then changing that weighting scale is not going to be very effective. So, but we should monitor and see if that is actually leading to any advantages for our students or not.
Puja.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think as the board, you are the governing body or the governance. And I think that once the policy is implemented, it's really up to you to, you know, develop the what and the why and the parameters within which that the administration will work. And then you work collaboratively with each other and, you know, collaborate, work together, co-create the things that need to happen. But there have to be you know, observable, measurable goals and outcomes, and some qualitative data too, in terms of, you know, perceptions of all the stakeholders involved. Is it working? What are we getting? You know, is it the intended responses or the outcomes that we're looking for? And that comes through a lot of active governance and active role on the board's part to gather perception surveys and to, you know, monitor that, continuously use the superintendent's advice and her or him as a resource to really consult and gather their insights. And I think the policy right now is a school with our security officers, and I think that's been implemented well. And I think the next step is, once, you know, if they are going to be armed, is monitoring how it's going and making sure that they're keeping up with their credentials.
Okay, so you know, the board does write the policies, and then it's the superintendent's job to administrate and hold the administration accountable for those policies, and the board holds the superintendent accountable. So, you know, writing effective policies, working with the superintendent to make sure that this works down in the schools. And I think that we need to be requesting data on a regular basis. I mean, the state of the district is great. This is the first time it's happening. And I think going forward, I think we need to request data a little bit more regularly, especially as it becomes available. And also, the one thing I think that we could really fix maybe is the block scheduling. It's not necessarily the idea of block scheduling. I wholeheartedly agree. I think the middle school is doing it really, really well. But the high school, the 82 minutes, I think we need a little bit more surveys to see how it's working, to see how the workload is going, and the training for the teachers. You know, the teachers got thrown into that number too. So I really think we need to evaluate the efficacy of 82 minutes. Thank you, Cynthia. Alex?
Yeah, I'll just use the recent school safety policy update and our support of the concealed carry. I mean, this is a recent change, but it's been going on for a long time. And in terms of accountability, I mean, this is really, you know, when you go through the school board training, you have two things. You set the goals and you hold people accountable. And I believe that in the policies that I've been involved in on the governance committee and you know, and the things that the board has adopted in recent years, there's indication that that has been successful, because you have to know how to hold people accountable properly to that, make sure you achieve the actual goals that are desired by the board.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew.
So yeah, I think it's critical that to have more measurable goals and policies in place. The more you can put around, specifics, the better. I think timing where appropriate in goals as well is really, really important, so we can measure that accountability, and we can sort of track where we are for progress. So that's I think important as you're looking for implementation. I was going to say block as well is recent, where it's worked well in middle school. It was tweaked a couple times to get it right. I think the high school is just starting out with it. There's some good things, but at 82 minutes, I agree that's something that could use, and it's going to probably need some more evaluation as we go forward. I also think some of the science conversations, it's not been a policy yet, but I think it's something that has been discussed at the board and things that they're working through. And I think, some of the curriculum areas still need some evaluation and some change. And that's an area of policy work that I think the board can hopefully focus on.
Thank you, Andrew. Jack?
Thanks. Look, this just comes down to oversight and active governance. You have to be an active board member. You can't wait to be told what you should care about. When a new policy goes in, you need to express your desire, your demand that you receive updates regularly at committee meetings. Every month, I want to know what we're doing, how it's going. I want information to support your statements that it's going well or that it's not going well. This comes back to the need for quantitative information when available, so that a board member can assess for himself or herself how well it's going. I think block scheduling is a good example of this. It's, as we all know, brand new at the high school, seems to be off to a pretty good start, but we're going to need a lot of follow-up presentations from the administration on what's going right, what's going wrong, and we need to evaluate that for ourselves.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Thank you. First, I want to thank Cynthia for mentioning state of the district. It's something we really pushed for, and we got it done for this term. So hopefully it's a new tradition we're going to keep doing and do a little bit more often, maybe half-a-year report. With the policy, I was in the policy committee for a couple of years. I think for the current board members, we're very familiar with this process. First, we got to follow the state statute, making sure we follow the codes, because you can't just invent policies. You can't just get together and say this is what we're going to push for. We're going to invent it. Then we have to consult with the outside firms. We're going to read the research papers and making sure it's a reasonable policy. And once we make up our mind, we push through it. Just like the block scheduling, just like the start time change, there was a lot of resistance. It was a multi-year effort. I mean, it goes way back. But we quietly work together, gaining the trust of the administration and staff, and that's the way of getting things done. And we have made things happen. And every policy once implemented, of course, you have to double check and check it every year, making sure it's working well, making minor improvements. So that's how the process goes.
Thank you, Louie. So now you'll each have 30 seconds for rebuttal, and we'll start with Shivani.
Yeah, I think the goals have to be objective and measurable. There's no doubt about that. And also we need to constantly monitor it, right? If the class average on a science test is 70% every year, then there is an issue there, and that needs to be monitored. We need to look at objective, unbiased data. And that's how we monitor the goals. If you look at the board goals and the district goals, I don't think they're aligned right now. There are no action items. There's no objective measures there. So those are things that should definitely happen. That would be key to monitoring policy implementation. And I think as far as—
Thank you, Shivani. Thank you. Puja.
I just wanted to speak a little bit to the statement about policy and that you have to follow statutes, and yes, you have to work within the legal guidelines. However, there is room, and that is where the local school boards come in, is that they can take the national, state, and federal level laws and statutes, and then take into account the unique characteristics and needs of your own community, and then you can apply them in a way, as long as you're not violating any federal laws. Ethics aren't, they're making sure that you're not discriminating. They're not stopping you from developing helpful policies that you need.
Thank you, Puja. Cynthia?
Okay. Lastly, I do think that our goals are always are kind of like about the Millburn brand and what's happening, in the district. I think that we need to make more student-centric goals, where we're really looking, and there really shouldn't be any excuses at this point. I mean, there was 1,700 people that signed a petition for change. I was one of them. It's how I got involved. And the board reports to the community and is really the liaison between the administration and the community. So it's just about really making sure these things are happening on a regular basis.
Thank you, Cynthia. Alex?
Just want to explain how is it that the board actually keeps the superintendent accountable. The way it's done is because, for example, the block scheduling comments, that's actually one of the district goals. And when the district goals are created, the superintendent then creates action plans, which have metrics and explanations as to how those goals are going to be achieved. And that's the way the board, every school board in New Jersey, holds the superintendent accountable, because the superintendent has to create those action plans with the metrics.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yeah, I think, I think what everyone's talking about here is an active governance, where, the board members get more involved in thinking about policy and asking those tough questions to come up with the right conclusions and the right approach to some of these issues, where before it seems like a bit more passive, and sort of just being led, where I think the parents can play a role. I mean, obviously the superintendent administers the school on a day-to-day basis, but I think there's a role for the parents, again, to impart some of their knowledge and their experience.
Thank you, Andrew. Jack?
So I'm just going to focus on something concrete, which is a district goal that the board just approved the other day. It's an objective or a sub-objective within a goal, which is to continue to increase high school student access and support. Now that feels a little unmeasurable at the moment. It's broad because the superintendent is going to spend the next 2 weeks working with her team to provide specific goalposts, and we're going to have to approve those goalposts before it goes into place. That's how we quantify these objectives and oversee them.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Thank you, Jack, for staying specific. Just like I said, whenever we see something that needs to be done, we try to approach it from a policy committee. So for example, when we felt students were not getting back their homework in time, we created a new homework policy, making sure the teachers have a guideline on how to deal with these things. However, I just want to say we cannot use policy committee as a weapon. That's not ethical, and that's not good for the district. Imagine 4 parents in the committee just getting together, decide to push the agenda through for the district, and somehow they make a policy of it. It's dangerous for the community.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to change topics a little bit here. The district has been communicating that this election day, there will be a bond referendum as part of the district's longer-term finance strategy. What are your thoughts on the strategy? If elected, how do you propose the board understand and balance the community's tax burden with the needs of the school district? Puja, you're up first.
Yes, with the bond referendum, I think for capital maintenance projects, especially a district like ours that is growing at the rate that it is, and with potentially more children coming in, we do have to plan and move forward with having, proper infrastructure in place. And I think that is a necessary thing. And this is a way to prevent the taxes. However, one thing I do want to say is I know that upon looking through the budgets, there are consistently about 7% in our capital reserves. And the New Jersey State Board, School Boards Association recommendations are about 2 to 3%, because I think they want to encourage you to use that into your operating cost, money. So I would only want to make sure that the budget isn't getting saved to pay that off if we're taking on more bond debt, not using it in the short term that we need to support our growing population with the services and educational, programming that is needed.
Okay. Well, finance isn't my strong suit, education is, but I do know that we are getting 40 cents on the dollar for our bonds. And I know that the interest rate now being high is not so much of an issue in this case. just from listening to Cheryl's presentation the other night, Cheryl Schneider's presentation. And I know that there's not going to be any tax burden for the town. So for me in this, I will always support improvements to our schools. I mean, I've seen some of them. I see, you know, some of the older facilities we constantly need to upgrade, and we need to make that happen. So to me, I'm in complete support of the bond referendum. I do hope that it will be passed for our students, for our schools, for our facilities. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say. Thanks.
I think it's an incredible tool. And if there's one thing that saved our district and got our kids back to school during COVID, it was the fact that we had upgraded our facilities as a result of these types of bond referendums. These are tax neutral to the community. The state contributes up to 40% of the debt payment. And it's just an incredible tool. The district, the administration comes up with the priorities along with the staff, and the board obviously reviews all these things, the finance committee. But I think it's an incredible tool, and I would support using it for as long as we can.
Yeah, I agree with Alex there. I fully support the referendum. The structure is pretty advantageous for the district, with the state contributing funds up to 40%, and the tax neutral way that the district is structuring it to replace the old debt and to maintain sort of steady debt service for it. It's done some great things for the district, the mill and the high school. Air conditioning, you know, all the things that they listed in the presentation was really well done. It's important for the school to keep at this. I would add just one thing that I didn't answer the committee thing. I think on finance committee and stuff, being a bond analyst, I saw the other night sort of board's eyes glaze over when they're talking bond math. That's one place I know I can, as a bond analyst, I can help the board and contribute to the conversation. But yeah, I think as structured, the referendum makes a lot of sense for the district, and we need to stay with it. The improvements to our physical infrastructure are definitely critical.
Great, thank you. Next up is Jack.
So thankfully, we're not in the business of issuing bonds very often. This is a fantastic system. The structure feels a little bit complicated, so it raises questions. Why are we issuing debt? Why do we need the voters to approve this? But the bottom line here, in the 45 seconds I have left, is that, and I'm part of this now positive feedback loop on this program, it's tax neutral. It's how we get the state to pay for 40% of our capital improvement projects. That's money we're not paying as a municipality. The state is paying that for us. And it's, look, the other thing to keep in mind is we're limited on the amount of increases, or the extent to which we can increase our operating tax levy every year. We have a 2% tax increase, and that's going to become problematic for us in future years. As we all know, inflation is greatly exceeding that 2% cap at which we can raise our operating budget. So that's going to go to other places. That budget, we need to do this to pay for capital improvements.
Thank you. Next up, Louie.
Yes, thank you. I love it. I see a huge consensus on this issue, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's self-evident, it's tax neutral. And when you look at the district from the perspective, for example, of a homeowner, you don't want to wait for your house to be breaking down, then try to fix them. Then you're going to incur higher cost. Now, what we're trying to do is trying to maintain the house, making sure everything is in order. And that's part of the work we do as board members, because a lot of people pay attention to a certain aspect of decision making for the board, but actually day after day, you know, when we spend 10 hours per week, we review the finance, we try to push for the referendum, we try to make sure all the facilities stay up there. These are the things we do. And I look at the country, I sometimes feel this country right now all over at every level is run by rhetorics. People talk about a lot of great ideas, but we need people who actually do the job. And over the years, I think we have that sterling reputation as a financially strong district. And I want to keep that tradition, keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Shivani.
Okay, I don't think I will repeat anything else that the others said before me. You know, the debt service level is the same, it's tax neutral, and the state is contributing 40%. So those are definitely good things. And I think there is a precedent. You know, in the past, we have made improvements on infrastructure. My middle schooler now has lunch in the cafeteria, whereas my older one used to eat in the auditorium. And the double door security vestibules, they give me a lot of assurance. So I definitely think that, you know, this is very good utilization of funds, especially since the state is contributing 40%. I just want to add that, I think through the process, there needs to be transparency and accountability, and we make sure we deliver what we've promised and we deliver what the community wants. Thank you.
Thank you. Because everyone seemed to be on the same page, if you could focus on the second part of the question, which is, how do you propose the board understand and balance the community's tax burden with the needs of the school district? We'll start with Puja.
Can you, I don't see myself, but okay, yes. So, yes, in terms of the tax burden, I know we do have that 2% tax levy, and I think that increasing taxes is really not a desirable option for anybody. And so, that is why I think a program like this helps. I do think we need to take a look at, are we using our resources and allocating them, in the way that's the most effective currently. And of course, I'm not on the board now. I don't have access to all of the financial documents that I'm sure that they get to see. So I can only speak to what I have seen. And I think that I want to make sure that we're not saving too much and not using enough to actually help our kids and invest in the future and present at the same time.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I know it is a concern of the taxpayers. I know we pay some of the highest taxes in the country in this area. So I do know that this is a major concern to the residents, but having this be a tax neutral bond referendum situation, I think is really important that everyone kind of gets to know that that's the fact, and that it's really only going to be for our good. I know we'll have to work on that as a balancing how much debt the district carries versus how much we're paying. But that's something that can be done over time. And I think that it's a win-win for all.
Alex.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just want people to kind of think about how much more does it cost to fix a broken roof, or a broken air conditioner, or a broken boiler right in the middle of winter, when all that could have been prevented and the kids won't be able to get heat because it might take weeks to get a new boiler. I mean, these are the things that these projects help avoid. It is about $120 per year per $1 million valuation. That's an approximate number, but yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, I think just thinking the overall tax burden, I think, yeah, it's a balance, because we do pay high taxes. I think Puja said it. So I think it's something the school has to think about. And it is about deploying our resources that we have as best as we can, and trying to maintain that balance for the town, where we want to continue to be one of the top schools in the state. That costs money, but at the same time, we want to be understanding of sort of the tax burden on the town. So I think it's important. But again, the referendum, as I was said, tax neutral, a great idea.
Jack.
Yeah, just on that second question, as I said, the board is highly limited on the extent to which it can raise taxes outside of a referendum, which would be used for capital improvement projects in which the community has to approve. So, and a huge proportion of the operating budget is fixed in the form of compensation and benefits. The discretionary portion of the budget is very small. So in future years, I think the community has to worry a lot less about tax increases. The board has to worry a lot more about how to be creative with that discretionary slice and how to make ends meet.
Thank you. Louie.
Yes, there's a reason I think we put you in the finance committee if you join the board, no matter which committee you want to join at the beginning. Because without understanding finance, it's hard to run a district. And over the last 6 years, I don't think we've ever raised taxes. We never thought about it, besides doing the referendum, which is tax neutral. There's a reason for that. We keep a close eye on our finance. We understand what the community truly needs. So when people come to me about, for example, AP access, they talk about lowering the barrier grades, I'm all ears. But when they talk about how come we cannot hire 10 additional AP teachers, unfortunately, we just can't do that.
Thank you. Shivani.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll agree with my predecessors on this question. I mean, I think the overall tax burden, we do have to be conscious about it, because we do pay high taxes, and maybe we can look at better deployment of our resources available to us. But the referendum is tax neutral. And we have, as I said, we have a great precedent from the previous investments. And so, I mean, I definitely think that people should do the research on their own as well, and look for this line item on the ballot and vote. Definitely vote for it. Don't miss this line item. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next, Cynthia, you're first. The topic of mental health has been proposed for years. How do you think the district should address the challenges we face today?
Okay, I have a minute. Great. So I know that we have added some counseling staff in the high school. But I do know there's been a rotation of counselors in the middle school, kind of counselors in and out. Also, the district I work in now has a counselor in every elementary school. So providing support at all levels, I think, is going to be very important. Post-COVID, I know lots of students struggle with anxiety. We've seen much more things like ADHD, executive functioning issues. We see these issues. It affects our students' learning. It affects their academics and what they're capable of. And then in Millburn right now, that means the classes that they're able to take. So I think by providing that all throughout, starting in elementary school, would be a huge benefit to our students, and it would be a huge benefit to the district. Right now, in elementary school who's having anxiety about something, there's nothing really to be done. We talk with the teacher and the parent, that's all.
Thank you. Alex.
Sorry. Yeah, yes, we put in place, I would say, a significant amount of resources. Even this approval of the new counselor that is going to the elementary schools that actually was not in place before. But even before that, the instructional supervisors, as it was explained to me, were qualified to address those concerns at the elementary school level. We have, say, something. We put in place some programs where kids can obtain resources anonymously, and I think. Well, I know that the administration, based on my experience and my service on the board, deeply cares about this and has always been at the forefront of providing more avenues for students to seek help, and as well as working with parents as well.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I think really this is one of the most critical and basic issues. I think the district has been a little too focused on the symptoms, and not that we can't provide for it, but I think it's really getting to the cause. Why are kids facing some of this mental health? And I can tell you from firsthand experience, seeing it in the high school, the stress, the culture is driving our kids really to a point of despair in many cases. And I've seen them. I know that some of them seek mental help after dealing with some of the things they are in high school and some of the reasons the parents are pulling their kids out. So I think we have to continue to provide services, of course, but I think we also have to address the fundamental problems. And that's where we can do a lot more work to understand what is getting our kids, and raising some of these mental health issues that we're seeing more and more and more of. So I think that really, really, really needs to be the focus.
Thank you. Next up, Jack.
So I'm going to echo some of the things Andrew said. First, I just want to note the fact that we have bolstered counseling staff in many different ways and different levels across the district, which I think is a big help. But look at the high school in particular. I think we need to continue to look at teaching and instructional practices and whether they need to continue to be modernized, and the extent to which they're being modernized and changed. With block scheduling at the high school, we want to make sure we don't have 82-minute lectures. That's not the idea. We need to continue to focus on our grading systems, and not just the end result, the end number of A's, which may look fine, but the journey to those A's, and whether we had a couple of completely unnecessary C's or D's on the way, because those do take a toll on student health. Lastly, we need to focus on social media as parents, and we need to focus on our kids and whether they're overloading themselves.
Thank you, Louie.
Yes, I think over the years, under the leadership of Sonali Ganti, Alex Zaltsman, and myself, the board has been very focused, and goes all the way back to Emily, yourself, and Barrett leading the board. We're very much focused on the mental health aspect of the students. The homework policy going through COVID, the block scheduling, the start time change, they were all done to give boost for mental health. And the One Millburn initiative, it's the same thing. So we are trying to do all we can within the scope of our power to make sure we provide as much support to the students. At the same time, I'm a very results and solution oriented kind of guy. I don't want to talk about just the symptoms and what we need. I want to hear realistic solutions. So for example, some parents say, you know what, my kids in accelerated is suffering tremendously. Now we talk about what we can do to make that curriculum better. That's great. But then the solution he has is, let's put my child in a higher level of classes. That defeats the purpose. So those are the things we try to be careful about.
Thank you, Shivani.
Okay, well, I mean, again, I think we need to really look at the root cause, as Andrew said. I mean, we have a punitive culture. We need to motivate our students. We need to inculcate a love of learning, and that is not there. I mean, that in my mind is the root cause for a lot of mental health and a lot of anxiety. And as Andrew said, I have seen it firsthand with my students. I have seen the loss in confidence. I have seen the loss in self-esteem. And the answer to that is not a therapy dog or any of the other tools that we have, which are superficial in nature, in my opinion. I mean, the answer really is building a motivational and positive culture which inculcates the love of learning, which provides opportunities for every student, no matter what level they are in. We don't have opportunities for every student. Students don't, they are truly deflated. And other schools are doing it. I think other schools are able to balance that positive environment, positive culture, and reward. So I think it is very much within the bounds of the law. I don't think we're asking for anything outlandish here. I mean, really, just address the culture, inspire the students, inspire them to be confident. And there are 500 parents who asked for this, 1,700 people who signed a petition for this. I mean, it's about time that we address this.
Thank you, Shivani. Next up, Puja.
Yeah, I think our children deserve to have an educational system that not only prioritizes academics, but also their well-being and their overall well-being and health and wellness. So, as a licensed mental health professional, I could talk about this for way longer than the 40 seconds, but I do have some thoughts. I think that, we have to start early. Early intervention really helps. And mental health is a multifaceted issue. So the educational competitiveness, I think the culture, the stress can certainly make certain conditions worse. You might have new conditions come from that, can lead to other issues too, especially with older kids, with substance abuse, other challenges. So I think we have to be mindful, but we do have to recognize that while we have staff, we need to look into building more in-house capacity and versus contracting. Currently, there's a lot of contracting going on as per what I've seen, and they cost a lot. The quality is hard. There's a lot of turnover in these companies. There's not a lot of consistency. We need to have staff that are embedded into the cultures of the school, into our district, and that they fall under the purview of the educational system and understand the nuances and can work really consistently with our children instead of contracting out.
Thank you, Puja. So the next question we have, and we'll start with Alex. What is your opinion on Millburn testing and grading culture? Do you propose to advocate for any changes?
Great question. I wanted to just say, as far as grading specifically, I've been on the board for 6 years. This is the first year that grading has been brought to the board. I don't recall any time grading to be discussed, but things change and, things have to be adjusted. The way that I would approach it is like this. We need a system and a process to address this. And the way that I would handle is I would take this issue and I would bring it to the program committee, and I would ask it, and if I'm on the committee or if I'm the chair of the committee or as a board member, I would say, let's break it down and come up with like specific issues that you want to address and decide on how to actually do this and work with the administration, because that's the process. Because we're not going to be, busting out doors and saying, changes here if we get elected. We have to work with the administrators. We have to work with the superintendent. We have to make sure that we understand what is our goal, and that whatever it is that we're planning on doing is going to impact all the children.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yes, 100%. We need to make changes to the grading and the testing culture. I mean, this is one of the major reasons I got involved again in the high school. There's definitely problems that need to be addressed, and they're not just one test here or one test there. It's really there's a culture, there's problems that run in a systematic way. Some of it is tied into AP. Are we weeding kids out because we have very few seats? Some of it are other methods and reasons that don't necessarily make sense anymore, and things that you don't want to put on your permanent transcript and your permanent record as you take them with you to college, to internships, and to jobs, and to other opportunities over time. There's ways to instill the values that we want, the rigor we want, all those educational desires. There are ways to achieve those things without some of the harshness that we have in the culture and the testing right now. And I would say not to fall for some of the false choices you hear about. We can have rigor, we can have fairness in grading and testing.
Thank you, Andrew. Jack?
Thank you. I'll take grading first. I absolutely do think that there are changes that we need to make at the high school level. I'm focused only at the high school for now, although we're beginning to examine the middle school. Look, when I see the aggregated data, I don't necessarily bristle. I don't think that looks terrible. But when you drill down into the data, when you look at different years, different rigor levels, different subjects, and at different points in time, you can find anomalies. You can find something that seems, unusually low. And that's where we need the data. The program committee needs the data on a recurring basis. It needs to be able to go through it. We need active board members to pay close attention and to point out and say, why is this the case? What happened here? I need to know more about this. I do think as a district, we need someone who can help with this. We can't rely on one or two very senior people to be producing this kind of reporting every quarter.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Yes, I mean, on Monday, we just had the state of the district part 2. So overall for our schools, 40% of our AP students are getting A's, 38% of our accelerated students are getting A's. So if you look at the aggregated data, I think harsh grading is not as severe a problem as some parents make it sound. However, there are outliers of classes, which was specifically addressed during the presentation. The school district, without trampling over a teacher's expertise, has to gently negotiate with the teachers and try to achieve a good result, a balance between fair grading and supportive grading. Sometimes they are not perfectly in tune with each other. And that's a complicated subject. Of course, I support reviewing those outliers and making sure bringing them in line, which I spoke publicly during the board meeting. However, when it comes to approaches, I want to make sure we don't go with rolling over the staffs.
Thank you, Louie. Shivani?
So, I think I'd like to counter some of that. I mean, the data that was presented on October 2nd, I've said this before, I think the data needs to be complete, impartial, and unbiased. That's the only way we can actually address this problem. I think we need to maybe have a neutral party look at this data and really understand where the problems are. I mean, if we look at data aggregated by electives and core courses, that's not very helpful. We need to look at the core courses because that's where we know that students are struggling. And those are the streams that they really want to go forward and pursue in college. So it's important that they have, at least reasonable, respectful grades in those courses. I think I'm going to sound like a broken record. I think the culture has to change. The grading culture has to change. I mean, if kids are getting C's the class average, then there is something missing, right? And if it's class average year over year, then there's something missing. Are we really trying to filter out the kids? Are we trying to restrict them to opportunity? And I understand that some of the advanced courses are taught at a much higher level, and so there is this fear that students will not be successful.
Puja.
Yes, hi. So, hello. So I'm going to speak to just a holistic view of my perspective. While I don't have children in high school, I'm very familiar with the educational system from pre-K through 12. And, I've lived and grown up in California. I've experienced that district. I've worked in various states in New York, Connecticut. I've seen various different ways of things getting done. And I do believe that, we need to look at what I feel is going on from my perspective. And I'm pretty sure we call it leveling, we call it pathways, but it's really tracking. And it is an outdated system that has been used and has been researched to have found harmful impacts on kids because it places labels, it puts you in a box, and it has been found to restrict mobility, although the idea was that it should help, children that need that extra support, like get that remedial help and then catch up. But research has demonstrated now that that does not happen. You actually end up being further behind, the gap stays, you end up having self-esteem issues. And I think we need to look at how we're using even the terminology, CPA, CPB kid, Excel kid. I think we need to look at it holistically, like make it less restrictive and look at a holistic picture here. We need to have more flexibility.
Thank you, Puja. We will now you'll each have 30 seconds for.
Wait, I didn't get my turn.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Cynthia.
I didn't get my turn.
I apologize.
It's okay. I was all ready.
I'm sorry, please. My
no worries.
apologies.
Okay. No, first of all, people have been talking about grading at Millburn High School since at least 2004 by the people I've been speaking to. I had a private student who was going to transfer to Millburn last year, 3 years ago, I apologize. And her family was going to move to Millburn because they heard the excellence of the schools. And when she talked to people, the words she heard were pressure cooker, and was highly discouraged from coming and went to private school instead. So, we really need to look at what we're doing to our students, timing these tests in an unrealistic way. Let the students finish the test, let them review it, let them learn from their test. That's what this is about. We want to create the love of learning in our students. They need to have access to the learning. It's not just about playing gotcha on tests. So we really need to look at creating policies and goals for standardizing some of the grading practices. And that's what the board can really do to get in and to work with the administration to make that happen for our kids.
Okay, so thank you. This time I really do mean it, that we are going to have 30 seconds each for a rebuttal, and we will start with Alex.
Yes, I just want to add that, I know how to actually get things done. And then the way that I would approach it is I can't wait to see what is said in the program committee meeting when this is brought up next year, because that's really where things get done. And we have all these opinions about, this subject about grading. I'm not dismissing them. I think they're extremely important. I have 2 years until my son goes to high school, and this stuff's like, it's like crazy. Like I want to know. I want to know.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yeah, I think also these issues have been going on for a long time. It'd be hard to believe that you wouldn't know. And I think it's this is where the experience of having kids in the high school, unfortunately, is really, really necessary. You have to live it to really appreciate what is going on. I mean, looking at the 40% of A stats in all of APs, if you're there, they're elective APs, they're AP senior year, where almost the entire class is getting an A. It's completely unrepresentative of what's happening in 9th and 10th grade, which is where the culture is really the roughest on our kids. And so you have to understand and dig in. You have to really understand these issues.
Thank you, Andrew. Jack?
Thanks. I'm just going to counter that last point from Andrew. I've been on the board for 9 months. I don't have kids in the high school, but I've been on the board for 9 months. I've been listening to people like crazy. I've heard from hundreds of parents. I mean, not just current parents. I've heard from retirees and empty nesters. I'm up to my eyeballs in information and anecdotes about the high school. I absolutely think there are improvements that can be made. And I think testing can change as well. A test should reflect. That's it.
Thank you, Louie.
I think I heard Shivani say we can get outside research firm to take a look. I think that's a great suggestion. I mean, I'm all open to real practical solutions, and I'm not sure we can afford that with the budget, but that's something we can give it a try. And again, I certainly support reviewing the outliers. The thing I am against is people saying we got to hold Dr. Myron accountable, hold Dr. Burton accountable, implying we're going to use their job to threaten them. And I hope my fellow candidates also don't endorse that kind of tactics.
Thank you, Louie. Shivani?
So I just want to continue from there. I think accountability and holding the superintendent accountable is one of the key functions of the board, right? I mean, that's written in the NJSBA guidelines. So I don't think there's any question there. I don't think anybody is referring to going to the school staff and school administrative. That's out of scope here. So I just want to set that straight. And, I mean, like Andrew said, you have to be a high school parent to understand these issues. And this has been a systemic problem from a long time. And, granted that the strategies that we had may have worked 20 years ago, I think the town is growing, our needs are growing, and our model needs to scale. Whatever our brand, if we want to maintain that, we have to be able to scale that with the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Shivani. Puja?
Yeah, in terms of the grading, yes, I think some of the grading anecdotal things that I've heard is concerning. And I think the first test in certain classes then should be maybe a baseline where then that info is used as data to understand and assess what does the whole student body in this class know. And that should be used by the instructor to modify and inform their teaching, curriculum and see what they need to do and adjust on their end. And I also think that, we need to work with the superintendent and department heads and administration to bring about some of these changes that are going to be taking a while, but they need to happen.
Thank you, Puja. Cynthia.
All right, grades really should be a reflection of what the teacher has taught the student, what the student has learned and absorbed from the teacher. And they should be really reflective of the hard work that the students do. It shouldn't be any gotchas. It shouldn't be any of those things. And truthfully, the high school administration really does need to lead this change. So, what can we do? We need to start working collaboratively to get in there, to get more data. And, if there's a 70 on the test, we really need to be talking about curving the grades, and 70 average.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for your responses. Since we have, just to give you a quick update for those still holding on with bated breath, we have one more question and closing remarks left.
Okay, Andrew, you're up first. AP access is widely discussed in our community. Do you think there needs to be changes to the current status? And if so, how and when?
Yes, there definitely need to be changes to AP. I think the sooner the better. I think it's been something that's been talked about at least since 2016. The board went out and did the right thing and hired Hanover Research to get a third party to look at it. They made recommendations about expanding that across gender and across ability. And, there were small things done, but not nearly enough. We've fallen behind on one of the most critical things that our kids are taking with them on their transcripts to college in the next level. It's also creating some of the grading pressure that we're seeing as they get weeded out for the same few spots while our kids and our student population get smarter and smarter and want to take more and more classes. We're not nearly where we need to be. We've seen a bunch of schools that are doubling our percentage of students, 50% with calculus, AP, and science, and they're doing great on the passing. So there's no reason why we can't do better and we can't do more. Our honors classes are in effect almost AP classes, and a lot of those kids do take the AP test and pass with flying colors. So there's more we can do right now.
Thank you. Jack.
So yes, AP access is widely discussed in the community. It's widely discussed at the Board of Education level and by its committees as well. The college admissions landscape changed dramatically several years ago. And while I think the pace of change there is decelerating, I think many public high schools are racing to catch up with the new state of college admissions. AP access is definitely, and APs on transcripts are very clearly a critical component in college admissions. We need to keep opening up. I hope that everyone saw the State of the District presentation on Monday night. It's clear that we have been making changes. This is a priority for the district, and it's a priority for the Board of Education. The trends are clear. Is it moving as fast as everyone in the community would like for it to move? I'm sure it's not, but it's moving fast enough that we're not sacrificing the quality of our educational programming while we're opening it up.
Thank you. Louie.
Yes, of course, AP access lies at the center of the high school, and it's a very important issue. I just want to say good intention and the rhetorics don't create good solutions sometimes. Look at affordable housing, look at the removal of SAT nationwide. Those were all done with the best of intentions. So we have a new circumstance where, the colleges, their admission standard is more confusing than before, and we're trying to counter that. When we talk about, AP like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we were talking about the removal of the qualifiers, and the qualifiers were put in by parents with good intentions to make sure everybody gets fair access. Who's not for fair access, right? So, but then, that solution didn't really work out. And guess what? Kids suffered for quite a few years. Then we went to task after COVID. We removed all the qualifiers, right? So, you can say, of course, we work with the community. That's how the board is supposed to work. Community demands something, we take a careful look at it, we do deliberation, then we get things done. But we got to be careful with more radical solutions.
Thank you. Shivani.
So I will say that I think this is not an AP access issue, this is an access issue. And when we say that we've removed qualifiers, what did we replace it with? We removed one obstacle and have created another obstacle now for kids to meet, because we still don't know clearly what the prerequisites for getting into those AP courses are. I think they're still very designed to be to focus on the top kids. And if there is a chokehold at the top of your pipeline, it affects everything in the backlog, right? So you are trying to filter out, weed out students who may be able to handle the AP course, and all that is great. But in the process, are you really resulting in, this grading culture for everyone else? And that's one reason that the AP access needs to be open. And like I said, it's an access issue, not just an AP access issue. The other thing is we teach, and we have great education, and I know that we teach the courses at much advanced level than the national standard level, and that's great. But maybe what we do is we have another class for students who want to take the AP advanced level, and then all the accelerated kids, probably we repurpose them and we let them take the AP course, because guess what? A lot of these students are able to take AP classes outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Puja.
Yep. So, I think what we're seeing with the AP courses and the access is really a symptom of a larger systemic issue that's been happening for decades. And I think what needs to happen is there needs to be some reallocations of these courses. I don't know why we have this 4 tracks. It could maybe be accelerated, can become AP. And then there should be standard honors. And that's usually how I've seen it done in very successful districts. And also, I think there's opportunity for some of these access things to, I think it impacts further up, right? Because once you start limiting it there, what we're seeing is that as far and early as 6th and 7th grade, children are getting put into a different track, limiting their access to calculus in high school because they forgot to, it's developmentally just they're going through a lot of psychological changes, behavioral changes, hormonal changes. And those are the times that apparently we're using strategies to actually disqualify kids instead of, qualify really, and removing them from the chance to actually, when they're ready, take courses that they might not have been ready for at 11 or 12, but could be by the time that they reach 11th or 12th grade. I think we have to look at that.
So, AP classes really are normalized at all of our peer schools. I don't know any other school that restricts AP access. And I know that we took qualifiers away. We said, okay, you don't have to take a test to get into the course. But now maybe a kid in CPA that wanted to test into the course was not in an Excel class to get to that pathway. Now, it may have created a barrier for that student. I know in my high school, I was an average student in high school. I really became a better student when I was in college. And I had access to any AP I wanted to take, but I didn't really want to take too many. I took music and I took art, history, and, I took the ones that I was interested in. But I don't think kids are going to be scrambling to take all of these AP courses if they have more choice. I don't think AP should be a track. And I think we need to create pathways instead of creating more barriers for our students to be able to access as high an education as they want.
Great. Thank you so much. Alex.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And if those who saw the board meeting, I asked a very specific question to one that I'm actually waiting for an answer. I know it's going to take them some time to come up with an answer, but exactly we took off the tests. Now we're back to the A minus. I've looked at different school districts, some at Princeton, Tenafly, Chatham. B+ seems to be a common standard, and I want to hear from the administration, why is it that we're not, what makes us different? What is the problem here? And I've advocated for this for a long time, and I'm waiting for the answer. It looks like changes is happening. It's people want to accelerate it because of what's happening with the college admissions process. But change has been happening at a slower pace because we're trying to change a system that's been in place for like decades, and it has been happening. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move. Oh, sorry. I got mixed up again. So we would like to say thank you to all the viewers who stuck with us for this whole time, and to all the candidates for your willingness to put yourself forward for this position, and then also for even being here tonight and being a part of this discussion. We really appreciate that. And now it's time for closing statements. Just as a quick reminder, you each have 60 seconds to give your closing statement, and we'll start with Jack.
Thank you all for your time tonight. In my 9 months on the Board of Education, we've brought forth meaningful change in many areas, including oversight and control of student grading systems, increased student access to AP programs, which was demonstrated on Monday night, a modernized GPA weighting scale, which was retroactively applied for the benefit of current high school students, even more support for student mental and emotional wellness at all age levels, strong and coordinated programs to reduce HIB in our schools, enhanced school building safety and security, including dedicated security officers embedded at every elementary school building. And we've dramatically increased levels of disclosure and transparency, including district performance data. I've made a strong impact in my 9 months on the Board of Education. I've developed valuable relationships with key professionals in the district. I know how to get things done while maintaining an atmosphere of dignity, respect, and civility toward all of our educators. I hope you'll vote for me to continue my work for Millburn schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Louie?
Thank you. Since there was no rebuttal last round, I'm going to sacrifice 20 seconds of my closing remark. What Cynthia said there, where no other district has a pathway, that's absolutely untrue. My friend Alex just listed 3 districts that have pathways, even though they may have different pathways, different level of requirements. Now, when I went to high school and took AP, so of course there was no restriction as well, because back then people consider AP as an option course where you can save some money when you go to college. Today it's a totally different landscape. That's why we have the issue. If people still feel AP is a pure option, then we wouldn't have this debate. So with that said, I got 25 seconds left. I just want to appeal to the community. When was the last time you made a good decision out of fear, anger, and anxiety? Please don't make your decision based on those negative emotions. Please listen to what we're talking about. Please look at the track record. And when we say we're going to do something, eventually we get to it. It may not be at the speed you want, but we're very careful about our decision-making powers, and we make the right decisions in the end. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Louie. Shivani?
Yeah, I think we should absolutely look at the track record. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so much dissatisfaction in the community. Anyway, my closing remarks. I bring experience in leadership, collaboration, and delivering results, the experience of being a K through high school parent, and through volunteering, I have a pulse on the needs of the community. This is a blend of experience that is the need of the hour. I have often had to rise to the challenges of working with difficult clients, as a soccer team manager struggling to find fields with limited resources, or as a parent of teens and tweens, which is not always easy. I've always been able to push myself out of my comfort zone to meet those challenges. And if elected, I will continue to rise to the occasion. My values are rooted in courage and humility. I will always represent you. I will always listen to you, and I will always be approachable. I want to set up current and future generations of students for success. We have already made waves from the community action and United Parent Front. I will prioritize student success, represent the community, govern actively, and ask the tough questions. If you want meaningful change, please vote for Partners for Change, last 3 online day of the ballot.
Thank you, Shivani.
Please vote.
Puja.
So, I think we have a great school district. I really do. And just with anything, there's always room for innovation and change. I just think we need to start to align ourselves more with what is the current context of our environments, what is going on with, colleges, just the overall changes and mindset shifts in what education really should be and is. And I think we need to look at it from that angle as well, because education really should also teach children how to become adults, how to love learning, how to enjoy being a part of the community and what that means. And it's beyond just numbers and academics, because guess what? Once they go to college, they need to know how to do their own, living skills, life skills. Those are big things that we have to teach. And I think we have to cultivate the type of values that we'd like for them to embody. And I want to continue to highlight that this community was a big reason why we also relocated here. And I think my background as a certified school social worker, mental health professional, I bring all of this. This is what I've spent my career focusing on, and I would love to continue using my experience to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Thank you again to all of you who made this forum happen on the PTOC tonight. Thank you to all the supporters who are inspiring the board to make these changes that we've been speaking about for ages. As a therapist, I'm a listener. I've listened to the parents since I've been attending the board meetings, since this has really become so important to me and my family. I've listened to the brave, passionate student who spoke his truth to represent his peers. I will listen to the parents and the students to collaborate with administration and educators on ways to create win-win solutions that benefit all and give all our students the opportunities and the excellent Millburn education that we came here for. I will put your students' wellness and success back at the forefront of the board goals. Please, on voting day, flip your ballot over and vote 60, 70, 5D, 60, 70 for Longley Richards, Shivani, and Finkelstein for Board of Education, so we can continue to listen and work for all of our students' success.
Thank you, Cynthia. Alex.
This is about every student first, and that's the name of our campaign. I believe that I have proven myself as a leader with deep experience on the board, understanding what the board does, understanding how the system works, and proof that I do care about this issue. Actually, 2 years, at least 2 years, that's just in that one moment in time before this conversation happened. So about, you know, the AP access, it's there. Like this, the report that actually I supported was thought of like 2 years before today. So this is proof that this was taken care of seriously by the board. I'm not speaking for the board. I was on the board. I was a board president. And this is an important topic for me because it was a problem when I got first elected. So I just want to be clear that personally, I have supported this. I have supported the change. I have asked for an independent review so that we can, again, use it as a tool to show what others are doing.
Thank you, Alex. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for putting this together first. And I'd like to say, you know, we really do have great students and we have great teachers. The district is doing a great job educating our kids. There's really no doubt about it, but we really haven't seen enough changes in the things that we've been asking for. I've been working tirelessly on these issues for the last year plus, meeting with the superintendent, various, you know, talking to board members, doing what I can to drive turnout at the meetings, bringing parents to express their views and make them well known, and really bring these issues to the fore. I think, you know, I can bring sort of my analytical skills, but I think we need fresh faces. I think we need fresh views. I mean, that's what this is about. Nobody's a professional board member for life. So you need to bring new opinions and new views on some of these things, maybe to move the conversation forward and bring that modernization that we're all looking for. So I think, look, we all want the best for our kids. And I think these are small changes. So I wouldn't fear anything about it. We're not talking about anything radical. That's sort of ridiculous.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for your responses.
Thank you to all of our candidates. A tremendous thank you to the PTOC presidents, Andrea Spar and Abby Ogunsanya, sorry, Abby, for their incredible planning of this event. Thanks to Katie Dussault, who was working her behind the scenes magic tonight, John Westphal Kwong, and the Millburn PTO Conference members for your many, many years of service to our schools and your long-term commitment to hosting this Board of Ed Candidate Forum. Thanks again to all of our participants and viewers and my co-host, Abby. Remember to vote, please go vote. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Emily, awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, guys.